Well, growing up here, you had this tradition, oral tradition of the baseball. I was born here and went to school here, and then I went to Mount St. Mary's. Came back. I worked for my dad. He had a drugstore up here in town called Traders. It was the big hangout for all the teenagers. So I couldn't hang out there because I'd be hanging out in front of my dad, So, but then I went to Washington College and got a master's degree. Okay, and I spent a number of years as a bureaucrat for the state. And during that time is when I did a lot of my research in sort of spare time. I got started, I think I read Bill Mowbray's book back in, I think he published it in 1989, The Eastern Shore League, simply titled, and it was about the minor league era. Bill was a reporter, I believe, for the Cambridge Banner, and he had access to a lot of the people that had participated, and he gave a nice little story of the three different Class D leagues. And starting off, he had a chapter on what happened before, and it was pretty short. It kind of teased me. I was like, there's got to be more, to that. And I was sort of interested in that, so that's where I got started researching. I wanted to see what was there before, and so I went back and tried to figure out when baseball actually started here, and then for some reason I just kept going progressively forward until I hit the minor league. The railroads had a lot to do with it. The steamboats have been around for a while, and you had a railroad running down Delaware. And what was happening between 1865 and 1867 was that all these railroads were connecting port towns on the bay to this railroad, which created markets up in New York and then down to Norfolk, across the bay, down in, originally Crisfield. And baseball seemed to follow. The railroads were being built kind of north to south and getting completed. And baseball seemed to follow it just right down the shore. It's 1865, it's in Chestertown and Elkton, and 65, it's in Elkton. 1866, it's in Chestertown area, Galena, Millington, places like that. And then in 1867, by that time, it's everywhere. Because in the early years, they were bringing players in from Baltimore or Philly or New York, wherever they could find them, really. And they were willing to come. And some teams actually would get applications from aspiring young ball players, 100 a year or 80 a year, And so that was the start of it. And then in that environment, the Eastern Shore produced a lot of local players. They had guys like Homer Smoot, in the early 1900s, and Home Run Baker. And you had a guy named Jake Flowers and Dickie Porter, and there were others, And then with the minor leagues, then they start bringing these guys in to develop, and, it's whoever they could get. So in the 1920s, you had all these Hall of Famers playing. It's like Class D, I guess, is comparable to the low Class A now or something. And, so you had guys like Mickey Cochran and Red Ruffing, Jimmy Fox, and, guys like that were playing, It was the center of the social season. Going to a baseball game and you have 500,000 people. It was a social event. That's where you went and met people and made connections. It was everything almost. Most of my research came out of newspapers. So you're reading, the Weekly Bugle in every town and you get this sense that you didn't go out and play a game and go home. It was a year-round endeavor where the whole community pitched in some shape or form. It was the center of the social season.